Hey everyone, and welcome to today's Explainer. I'm so glad you're joining me because today we're looking at one of the most incredible, awe-inspiring systems on our entire planet. We're going to explore the amazing, continuous journey of water and how it constantly travels all around the Earth.
So let me ask you something right off the bat. Have you ever looked up during a huge storm and wondered, where exactly does all this rain come from? Or maybe you've stood by the edge of a massive rushing river and thought, how in the world does this water never seem to run out? Well, the answer to both of those mysteries lies in one absolute powerhouse of a planetary engine.
We call it the water cycle. Simply put, it's the continuous movement of water from the Earth's surface up into the atmosphere and then right back down again. You know, I really like to think of water as nature's ultimate shapeshifter. As it travels through this massive cycle, it's constantly changing forms, seamlessly shifting between a flowing liquid and a completely invisible gas, and even solid stuff like ice or snow. Okay, let's dive into this. Here is our roadmap for the journey today. We'll start with the never-ending journey, then move into evaporation, condensation, precipitation, and finally, wrap up with exactly why we need this cycle to survive. Let's kick things off with part 1, the never-ending journey, which is all about water's constant, unending movement. Which brings us right to part 2, evaporation, or as I like to call it, the Great Escape. To understand how water actually starts its upward climb and defies gravity, we really have to look at the sheer scale of the mechanics at play here. The sun is the ultimate engine for this whole process. It shines its intense thermal energy down on our oceans, rivers, lakes, and even those tiny puddles in your backyard, heating up the liquid water. And when that liquid gets warm enough, it transforms. It turns into an invisible gas called water vapor. Because this vapor is now lighter than the surrounding air, it just effortlessly rises up high into the atmosphere. Now, if you're having trouble picturing this invisible gas escaping, just think about this everyday example. Imagine hanging a load of soaking wet clothes outside on a sunny day. You come back a couple of hours later, and they are completely bone dry. Where did the water go? I mean, it didn't just vanish by magic, right? That is evaporation happening right before your very eyes. The sun's heat turned the liquid water trapped in the fabric into a gas, and it escaped straight up into the air. All right, moving on to part 3, condensation. This is where we make the clouds. So as that invisible water vapor travels way up high into the sky, it eventually hits the freezing cold temperatures of the upper atmosphere. And this is the crucial moment of condensation. The whole process reverses. The cooling water vapor changes back from an invisible gas into tiny, visible liquid droplets. Because it's suddenly so cold up there, the water basically wants to huddle and group together to chill out. And you know what happens when enough of those microscopic liquid droplets group together up there? They form those beautiful structures we see every single day. That's right, every cloud you see floating across the sky is actually just a massive floating collection of countless newly formed liquid water droplets. And this actually brings us to a wonderfully surprising fact. Clouds might look super light, fluffy, and completely weightless as they drift gracefully over your house, but do not let them fool you. Because they're packed with literally billions and billions of liquid droplets, clouds contain tons of water. They are incredibly heavy. They're honestly just held up there by upward-moving air currents. Which leads us to part 4, precipitation, the big drop. Because what goes up must come down. Eventually, those upward air currents just aren't strong enough to hold all that weight. As the clouds collect more and more water, the droplets merge, they get heavier, and gravity finally takes over. But precipitation doesn't always fall in the exact same form. It entirely depends on the temperature of the air the water is falling through. If the air below the cloud is relatively warm, we get liquid rain. But if that air is freezing cold, our shape-shifting water turns into snow, hail, or sleet. It's the temperature of the atmosphere that dictates the final form it takes before it smacks into the surface. Once it does hit the ground, we enter the collections stage. The water gathers right back into our rivers, lakes, ponds, and vast oceans. But importantly, a huge amount of it also soaks deep into the earth, becoming groundwater. This hidden underground water is exactly what plants pull up through their roots to fuel their growth. And once all this water has collected and pooled on the Earth's surface, the stage is completely reset. It just sits there, waiting for the sun to heat it up, totally ready to begin the entire incredible journey all over again. And finally, part 5, why we need the cycle, how it fuels literally all life on Earth. So why does this constant, invisible churning of water actually matter to us? Well, simply put, it fuels everything. This continuous cycle provides the fresh, drinkable water that you, me, and every animal absolutely need to survive. It delivers the steady rain that helps our forests and our food crops grow. It constantly replenishes the rivers, lakes, and reservoirs that power and hydrate our cities. And crucially, it acts as a massive natural filtration system. It keeps Earth's water clean just by constantly moving and recycling it. Without this cycle, our vibrant planet simply wouldn't be able to sustain life at all.
And that brilliantly illustrates the elegance of the whole system we've just been talking about. It's 4 simple, continuous steps. Step 1, evaporation, where the sun's heat turns water into vapor. Step 2, condensation, where that vapor cools down high up in the atmosphere to form clouds. Step 3, precipitation, where gravity pulls that heavy water right back down to Earth. And step 4, collection, where it gathers on the surface and waits to start the whole thing over. It really is nature's ultimate, unending recycling program. And hey, speaking of recycling, I want to hit you with a massive, mind-bending fact before we go. This cycle hasn't just been running for a few years, or even a few centuries. The water on Earth has been moving through this exact same system for millions upon millions of years. Think about that. We don't get new water delivered from space. It's the exact same water looping over and over again since the incredibly distant past. There's this fantastic quote from our source material that I absolutely love. It says, "The water you drink today may have once been part of a cloud, river, or ocean long ago." Just take a second to really think about the deep, ancient history of a single drop of water resting in your glass right now. It has literally lived 1,000 lives before it ever reached you. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? The next time you pour yourself a glass and take a sip of water, ask yourself, what ancient storm cloud, what prehistoric ocean, or what roaring dinosaur's drinking puddle are you actually drinking today? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep wondering, keep learning, and I'll catch you guys next time.